What if the most dangerous criminal you've ever chased wasn't after money, but after you? What if every crime scene wasn't a robbery, but a message? And what if the men leaving those messages knew the one truth you had buried so deep inside yourself that even you stopped calling it by its name? Heists. High stakes. Precision timing. The press called him a phantom. The department called him a federal embarrassment. I called him a pattern. I didn't realize I was the pattern. The first bank was small, suburban, insured, predictable. No casualties. No panic shots. Cameras looped exactly 14 seconds before vault breach. Security bypassed without brute force. It wasn't chaos. It was choreography. The robber moved like someone trained not to rush. Someone who understood angles, breath, timing. Someone who had worn a badge once. That detail didn't make the official report. It made mine. Welcome to First West Stories. Stories of our fathers. If you love our frontier legends and ancestors, drop a comment, like, share it with a friend, and subscribe. Most of all, stay till the very end. The wildest part is always waiting there. Detective Miles Corbin had built his reputation on stillness. He didn't shout during interrogations. Didn't slam folders. Didn't bluff. He waited. Silence made men confess faster than aggression ever could. His colleagues respected him the way soldiers respect landmines, carefully. He had been with the Bureau for 11 years. No scandals. No public relationships. No rumors. Just commendations and distance. Distance was easier. I kept my office immaculate. Clean desk. Clean record. Clean image. I didn't give people room to speculate. In our line of work, perception mattered more than confession. And I had no intention of confessing anything, not to my superiors, not to my colleagues, not to myself. Until the third robbery. That's when the letter arrived. Not in an envelope. Not addressed. Not even obvious. It was hidden inside the vault's security override code, an extra string embedded in the digital signature. It shouldn't have been there. No one else noticed. But I did. Because it wasn't random. It was a reference. 5 numbers. A date. June 14th. 9 years ago. The day a classified task force disbanded quietly after an operation went wrong overseas. The day a man vanished from federal records without formal discharge. The day I met him. Evan Vale. That was his name when he still wore it. Third-generation military. Recruited young. Fast-tracked through tactical programs most agents never hear about. Controlled. Observant. Brilliant in the field. And reckless when it came to people. We served on the same counterintelligence task force for 8 months. 8 months of shared operations, midnight briefings, controlled breathing in darkened rooms. 8 months of proximity. I told myself it was professional admiration. He told me nothing. But sometimes silence is louder than confession. There are glances between men that linger half a second too long. Conversations that hold tension under the words. Physical closeness during surveillance that feels charged. I ignored it. He didn't. The mission in Belgrade collapsed after a compromised informant. Shots fired. Extraction rushed. Files sealed. Task force dismantled. Evan disappeared 3 weeks later. Officially. Psychological evaluation pending. Unofficially. He walked away. No forwarding address. No goodbye. Until now. The fourth robbery was larger. Metropolitan Bank. Federal oversight. He escalated deliberately. Not in violence, in intimacy. He left another message. Not numbers this time. A phrase etched into the inner vault panel, subtle, carved shallow enough to avoid immediate notice. You always did prefer silence. No one else understood it. But I did. That was what he said to me once during surveillance in Prague. I had been staring too long. He leaned in close and murmured it like a joke. Except it wasn't. He knew. He always knew. Agent Claire Donovan entered my office 2 days later. She had been assigned to me after the second robbery, bureau politics. Fresh perspective, the director called it. She was sharp, observant, ambitious, too perceptive for my comfort. "You look tired," she said, setting down the file. "I'm working." "You're always working." Claire didn't flirt openly. She did something more dangerous. She cared. She studied my coffee order. Noticed when I skipped meals. Watched me at crime scenes like she was trying to decode me instead of the evidence. I kept it professional. I had to. She leaned against my desk. "There's something personal here, isn't there?" "No. Miles." Her voice softened in a way that tightened something in my chest. I didn't deserve softness. Not from her. "This guy isn't stealing for money," she continued. "The cash trail doesn't match his risk escalation. He wants attention. He wants control," I corrected. "Of who?" I didn't answer. Because the truth was beginning to surface like a body in water. Me. The fifth robbery confirmed it. He didn't empty the vault. He took one safety deposit box, randomly assigned. No financial connection. Inside was a watch. Not expensive. Not rare. But engraved inside were coordinates. Coordinates to a rooftop in Vienna. Where Evan and I once stood after an operation, overlooking a city that didn't know we had just saved it. He had asked me that night, casually, "Do you ever wonder what it'd be like not to hide?" I pretended not to understand the question. He didn't press. Now he was pressing. Publicly. Through crime. Claire began noticing the pattern. "Each site connects to something," she said one evening, pacing the bullpen. "Locations linked to prior federal operations. Not public knowledge. Someone with clearance." "Yes. You think he's ex-bureau?" "I think he was never the kind of man who quits quietly." She studied me carefully. Too carefully. "You know him." It wasn't a question. Silence again. My oldest defense. Claire's jaw tightened. "Is that why you won't let anyone else lead this? This is my case. Or your history?" That hit harder than I expected. Because she wasn't just asking about professional overlap. She was sensing something else. Something unspoken. Jealousy has a shape. I saw it forming in her eyes, though she didn't yet know what she was jealous of. The sixth robbery broke protocol. He triggered a silent alarm deliberately. Stayed inside the bank vault longer than necessary. Waited. When tactical units arrived, he was already gone, but not before leaving a sealed envelope on the vault floor. Addressed properly this time. To Detective Miles Corbin. My hands were steady when I opened it. Years of field training. Years of controlled breath. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Handwritten. "You're still choosing silence." Below it, a question. "Is she helping you forget, or helping you hide?" Claire was standing 3 feet away when I folded the letter. "Anything useful?" she asked. I met her eyes. For the first time since this began, I felt exposed. No. Lie. That night, alone in my apartment, I read it again. And again. He wasn't threatening me. He was challenging me. The robber wasn't escalating violence. He was escalating intimacy. Every heist closer. Every clue more personal. He didn't want money. He wanted acknowledgement. And the worst part? A part of me wanted to give it to him. That realization was more terrifying than any armed confrontation. Because criminals are easy to chase. Desire is not. Claire called at 11:42 p.m. I ran deeper analysis, she said. Your name appears in sealed archives tied to these old operations. The same ones connected to the robbery sites. I closed my eyes. How much did you see? Enough to know you're not telling me everything. Silence again. Are you in danger? She asked softly. The honest answer was yes. Not from a gun. From memory. From longing. From the possibility that the men orchestrating federal crimes understood me better than anyone currently alive. I can handle it, I said instead. You don't have to handle everything alone. She meant it romantically. I heard it professionally. And somewhere between those interpretations was the truth I refused to speak. Across the city, in a dimly lit warehouse office, Evan Vale watched the news coverage calmly. He had changed his hair, grown a beard, adopted a new name in underground circles. But his posture remained military straight. His movements economical. He wasn't angry. He was patient. He studied footage of Miles exiting the crime scene, shoulders tight, jaw clenched. "You're still running," he murmured to the empty room. On his desk lay the blueprint of the next bank. Not chosen for wealth. Chosen for proximity. Closer to the bureau building. Closer to Miles. He didn't want to disappear. He wanted to be caught. But only by one man. Back in my apartment, staring at the letter, I finally allowed the forbidden question to surface. What if this wasn't obsession? What if it was unfinished? And what does a detective do when the man he's hunting knows the shape of his desire better than he does? Outside, sirens wailed in the distance, not for me, not yet. But I knew something had shifted. This wasn't just a case anymore. It was a confrontation long delayed. Between law and longing. Between duty and truth. Between the men I presented to the world. And the men he remembered. And the robber was getting closer. Not to escape. But to force me to stop hiding. The seventh robbery didn't make sense. That's how Claire phrased it. We stood over surveillance stills projected across the conference wall, grainy frames of a man in a charcoal suit walking calmly through a downtown bank lobby at exactly 2:17 p.m. No mask. No rush. No visible weapon. He looked like someone meeting a financial advisor, not committing a felony. He wants to be seen, Claire said. He wants to be recognized, I corrected. She glanced at me. By you. The room went quiet. No one else caught it, the subtle tightening in my jaw, the fraction of a second hesitation before I shifted my weight. But Claire did. She was watching me now more than she was watching him. The robbery itself was surgical. Minimal cash taken. No injuries. Vault opened with bypass techniques not publicly documented. Exit timed with a scheduled armored transport distraction 3 blocks away. It wasn't greed. It was choreography. And then there was the gift. Because that's what it was now. A small velvet box left inside the emptied safety drawer. Inside it, a cufflink. Silver. Military issue. The twin to one I used to wear. 9 years ago, in Vienna, Evan had given me that pair after an operation went clean. So you'll remember who you work best with, he'd said, almost teasing. I stopped wearing mine after he disappeared. Now one had resurfaced. Claire stood beside me at the evidence table, gloved hands hovering over the box. This is personal, she said quietly. I said nothing. She turned to face me fully. Miles, if you're connected to this suspect beyond professional history, I need to know. I'm connected to the case, I replied. That's not what I asked. No. It wasn't. Claire Donovan was intelligent enough to sense emotional gravity shifts. She'd started tracking something invisible, my pulse patterns at scenes, my silence after certain clues, the way I read evidence twice when it contained references only I understood. She didn't know what she was looking at yet. But she knew she was standing outside of it. Jealousy doesn't begin with anger. It begins with exclusion. Internal Affairs requested a meeting 2 days later. That was the first real escalation. Agent Whitmore from IA sat across from me with a folder thicker than it needed to be. It was a posture play. You served with an Agent Evan Vale, he said flatly. Yes. Classified task force. Yes. He disappeared. Yes. Whitmore studied me carefully. You didn't report irregular behavior prior to his departure. There was none. That's not what some archived psychological evaluations suggest. My heartbeat didn't change. Years of interrogation training. Controlled breath. Minimal blink rate. What are you implying? I asked. That perhaps your former colleague's behavioral instability was overlooked. And you think I'd overlook instability? Whitmore didn't answer directly. But the implication hung there. Emotional bias. Attachment. Compromise. Claire sat beside me, silent, observing the exchange like a chess spectator. She was connecting pieces. And she didn't like the emerging picture. The 8th robbery occurred closer. 3 blocks from bureau headquarters. That wasn't coincidence. It was provocation. This time he left something different. Not an object. A message transmitted through the bank's internal system seconds before exit, rerouted through secure frequencies only federal personnel would recognize. It flashed across my tablet during review. You're letting her stand between us. Claire was in the room when it appeared. Her eyes shifted from the screen to me. What does that mean? She asked. It means he's escalating. That's not what I meant. The room emptied slowly after the briefing. People sensed tension even if they didn't understand it. Claire stayed. Is he talking about me? She asked quietly. I didn't answer fast enough. Her expression changed. Not anger. Worse. Hurt. You think I'm in the way, she pressed. This isn't about you. It clearly is. Claire. No. Don't deflect. Her voice tightened. He's making this personal, and you're not shutting it down. You're not reacting like someone being harassed. You're reacting like someone being pursued. The word lingered between us. Pursued. My throat felt dry. You're reading too much into it. I don't think I am. Silence again. My oldest weapon. But silence can also wound. She stepped back slightly. If there's something I should know about you, about him, tell me before IA decides to dig deeper. There it was. The real threat. Exposure. Not of incompetence. Of identity. Across town, Evan adjusted the blueprints for the 9th target. He wasn't reckless. He was deliberate. He had studied Claire too. Her proximity. Her posture beside Miles. The way she leaned slightly inward when he spoke. The protective tone she adopted in briefings. Evan didn't hate her. He pitied her. She thought she was competing for affection. She didn't realize she was competing with memory. And memory is undefeated. He traced a finger over the architectural lines. This next one, he murmured, removes ambiguity. The 9th robbery wasn't about money at all. It was about exposure. He didn't breach the vault. He accessed the bank's safe deposit archival room and removed a sealed document belonging to a private client. The client? Assistant Special Agent Claire Donovan. My stomach dropped when I saw her name. He hadn't stolen it. He had photographed it. And left the original untouched. Attached to the crime scene evidence was a printed image of the document. With a note. She deserves honesty. Claire read it in silence. Her face drained of color. What does he know? She asked. I scanned the photographed document. It was a loan agreement. Nothing scandalous. Except for one detail. The cosigner. Me. A financial arrangement I had quietly helped her secure months earlier when her mother's medical bills stacked up. Off record. Private. Not romantic. But intimate enough to suggest closeness. Evan wasn't attacking her finances. He was marking territory. You helped me, she said softly. Yes. Why didn't you tell anyone? It wasn't anyone's business. Or you didn't want it misunderstood. The question cut deeper than she realized. Because everything in my life was built around avoiding misunderstanding. Or rather, avoiding being understood. Claire stepped closer. Miles, what is he to you? I looked at her. Really looked. She was intelligent. Brave. Honest in ways I had trained myself not to be. She deserved truth. But truth would dismantle more than this partnership. He's a former colleague, I said carefully. That's not what this is. Her voice cracked slightly. Jealousy had finally surfaced fully. Not anger at him. Fear of losing me. And I couldn't even give her something I never truly offered. Internal Affairs escalated their review. My sealed personnel file was reopened. Psychological evaluations from Vienna were pulled. Encrypted mission logs flagged. Whitmore requested a second meeting. You and Vale had off-record interactions, he said bluntly. Field coordination. After-hours meetings. Operational planning. Witnesses describe intensity. I held his gaze. Are you suggesting misconduct? I'm suggesting vulnerability. There it was again. The real accusation. Not that I committed a crime. That I felt something. And feelings are liabilities in federal service. The 10th robbery shattered containment. He allowed himself to be seen clearly on one security camera. No mask. Beard trimmed. Eyes unmistakable. And he looked directly at the lens. Like he knew I'd be the one reviewing the footage. Because I was. Claire stood behind me as the frame froze. Her breath caught. You know him, she whispered. Not suspicion anymore. Certainty. I nodded once. Yes. The room felt smaller. How? She asked. The silence stretched too long. And for the first time in 11 years of service. I didn't hide. We were close, I said quietly. Her shoulders stiffened. Close how? There it was. The edge of confession. The point of no return. I didn't say the word. But I didn't deny it either. And that was enough. Claire stepped back. Processing. Not disgust. Not judgment. But realization. The pieces rearranged in her mind. The distance. The guarded posture. The absence of relationships. The way this case felt personal. You loved him, she said. Not accusing. Just stating. I swallowed. I don't know what I felt. But he does, she replied. And that might have been the most devastating truth yet. Across the city, Evan prepared for something different. No bank. No vault. A meeting. He knew Miles was close to admitting it. Pressure fractures stone eventually. He didn't want Miles destroyed. He wanted him honest. Even if honesty burned everything else down. He checked his watch. Same model as the one from Vienna. Your move, he murmured. Claire packed her files quietly that evening. I need space, she said without looking at me. You're still on the case. I know. Her voice softened. I just didn't realize I was competing with a ghost. You're not competing. She gave a faint, sad smile. That's the problem, Miles. I was never in the game. She walked out of the office. And for the first time since the robberies began, I felt loss that wasn't tied to Evan. Because collateral damage doesn't care about orientation. It only cares about proximity. That night my phone vibrated. Unknown number. One text. You're almost there. No signature. No threat. Just inevitability. The robber wasn't running. He was waiting. For me to choose. Duty. Or truth. And the terrifying realization. I didn't know which one would win. By the 11th robbery, it wasn't just a case anymore. It was a spectacle. News channels had given him a name, the Admirer. A headline-ready criminal who robbed banks without violence, left poetic clues, and seemed fixated on one federal detective. Me. Panels debated whether it was obsession or performance art. Psychologists speculated about narcissistic projection. Retired agents criticized my visible emotional involvement. They didn't know the half of it. What they saw was a criminal taunting law enforcement. What they didn't see was a man dismantling me piece by piece. Claire returned to the office 3 days after asking for space. Professional. Composed. Cold. She avoided eye contact during briefings, spoke only in operational language, and never once mentioned what she'd said in my office. But distance is loud. And everyone could hear it. After the morning strategy meeting, she closed the conference room door behind us. We need to talk, she said. Her voice wasn't trembling this time. It was steady. Which frightened me more. You told me you didn't know what you felt, she continued. That wasn't true. I didn't answer. You loved him, she said again. And I need to know something clearly before this gets worse. I met her eyes. Am I collateral damage, she asked, or was I ever real to you? That question didn't belong in an interrogation room. It belonged somewhere softer. Somewhere I had never allowed myself to stand. You were real, I said quietly. But not loved. The silence confirmed it. Her jaw tightened, but she didn't cry. Claire Donovan didn't break in front of people. Then stop pretending you're chasing him just because it's your job, she said. You're chasing him because you need answers. And that's dangerous, she added. Not for her. For me. Internal Affairs accelerated their review. Agent Whitmore cornered me in the parking structure that evening. The Bureau doesn't care who you love, he said flatly. We care if it compromises operational judgment. He handed me a file. Inside were psychological assessments from Vienna. Notes I hadn't seen in years. Agent Vale exhibits emotional fixation on Agent Corbin. Potential boundary erosion. My chest felt tight. He requested reassignment after the Prague extraction, Whitmore continued. Cited, personal conflict. That wasn't career language. No. It wasn't. Whitmore stepped closer. If this man resurfaces because of you, and if you hesitate when the time comes to act, I will personally recommend your removal. There it was. The ultimatum. Love versus duty framed as weakness. And I had spent my entire life proving I wasn't weak. The 12th robbery didn't target a bank. It targeted the Bureau. Not directly. But symbolically. A federal credit union servicing law enforcement families. Minimal cash taken. Maximum statement. And this time he left something unmistakable. A photograph. Old. Vienna. 2 agents standing on a balcony overlooking the Danube. Close enough that shoulders touched. Close enough that it was no longer ambiguous. On the back, handwritten. You were braver there. Claire saw it before anyone else. Her hand lingered over the image. Did anyone else know? She asked quietly. No. Not even your supervisors. No. She studied my face. You built your whole life around control, didn't you? Yes. And he's the only variable you never solved. I didn't answer. Because that was exactly right. Media pressure intensified. Commentators questioned whether the robber and the detective shared a past. Speculation turned invasive. My personnel record was scrutinized publicly. Every commendation reframed as overcompensation. Every unsolved case whispered about as distraction. Claire absorbed the backlash too. Reporters asked if she felt emotionally compromised. She handled it professionally. But I could see the strain. And beneath it, jealousy wasn't gone. It had just changed shape. It wasn't about romance anymore. It was about being chosen. The first direct contact happened at 2:13 a.m. No robbery. No spectacle. Just my phone vibrating on my nightstand. Encrypted call. Private frequency. I answered. Silence at first. Then breathing. Familiar. Controlled. Miles. 11 years. And his voice still did that. Like a match struck in a dark room. You're escalating, I said. You're avoiding. I'm working. You're hiding. The calmness in his tone unsettled me more than rage would have. Why are you doing this? I asked. Because you left without choosing, he replied. That's not fair. No, he agreed softly. It wasn't. Silence stretched between us. I could hear traffic faintly in the background on his end. He wasn't rushing. He wasn't afraid. I don't want your career, he continued. I don't want your badge. What do you want? A pause. Then. Honesty. My throat tightened. You could have just called, I said. And you would have answered, he asked gently. No. I wouldn't have. Claire was waiting outside my office the next morning. You look like you didn't sleep, she observed. I didn't. She studied me carefully. He contacted you. It wasn't a question. Yes. Her jaw flexed. Are you going to tell IA? No. She exhaled sharply. You're proving them right. I'm managing it. No, Miles. You're protecting him. The word hit hard. Protecting. Was I? Or was I protecting the version of myself that existed when I was with him? Claire stepped closer. You think this is romantic? She asked quietly. It's manipulation. He's not manipulating. He's committing federal crimes to get your attention. That's not the same thing. Her eyes flashed. That's exactly the same thing. Across the city, Evan adjusted plans again. He hadn't expected Claire to stay this strong. He admired her, in a distant way. She loved Miles honestly. Which made her dangerous. Because honest love fights. Evan's love endured. Different weapons. Same intensity. He checked the time. Phase 13 would remove ambiguity entirely. The 13th robbery was no robbery at all. It was a surrender. Sort of. At 4:47 p.m., an anonymous tip led agents to an abandoned opera house downtown. Inside. A single chair under a spotlight. And on it. A file. Marked, Corbin. I arrived first. Claire wasn't far behind. The file contained everything. Photographs from Vienna. Mission logs. Personal letters never sent. And one new envelope. Addressed to me. Claire didn't stop me from opening it. Inside. If I wanted to disappear, I would. If I wanted to destroy you, I could. I'm here because you never said it back. My hands trembled slightly. Claire saw it. So that's what this is, she whispered. Yes. You never told him. No. And he built an entire crime spree around that silence. The weight of it settled heavily. This wasn't about money. Or power. Or escape. It was about unfinished words. The opera house lights flickered suddenly. Footsteps echoed in the balcony above. Every agent drew weapons. My pulse spiked. A silhouette appeared against the dim light. Calm. Unarmed. Evan. He didn't run. Didn't hide. Just stood there, looking down at me. For a moment, no one moved. Claire's voice cut through the tension. Miles. A warning. A plea. An order. All at once. Evan's eyes never left mine. You can end this, he called down calmly. My heart pounded in my ears. You don't have to keep chasing. Agents shifted around me. Weapons trained. Protocol screamed in my head. Arrest. Secure. Neutralize. But none of those words fit what this was. You think this fixes it? I called back. No, he replied softly. But honesty might. Claire stepped closer to me. If you hesitate, she whispered, IA will destroy you. I knew. I absolutely knew. Evan slowly descended the staircase. Hands visible. No sudden movements. Just proximity. Every step tightening the air in my lungs. You loved me, he said quietly, stopping 10 feet away. Agents shifted, uncertain. I couldn't look at anyone else. You don't get to say that here, I replied. Why not? You let the whole country speculate. That's not the same. No, he agreed. It's worse. Silence. And then. He did something unexpected. He dropped to his knees. Hands behind his head. Submission. Not surrender to the Bureau. Surrender to me. Gasps filled the space. Claire stared, stunned. Evan's voice stayed steady. I'm done running, he said. But I'm not done loving you. The words echoed in the opera house like a gunshot. And suddenly, every camera, every agent, every accusation, didn't matter. Because the only thing that mattered was whether I would say it back. Claire's breathing was uneven beside me. This is your moment, she whispered. Not angry. Not bitter. Just aware. Evan waited. Not pleading. Not demanding. Just certain. And I realized something terrifying. He hadn't committed crimes for attention. He committed them because he knew I would never confront myself otherwise. He forced truth into daylight. And daylight burns. I stepped forward. Agents tensed. Protocol shattered. Evan Vale, I said formally. He looked up at me. Eyes steady. I'm placing you under arrest. His lips curved slightly. Not disappointment. Not relief. Recognition. As agents moved in to cuff him, he held my gaze. "You still didn't say it," he murmured. And that hurt more than anything else. As they led him away, Claire stood very still. "You chose the badge," she said quietly. "Yes." She nodded once. "I hope it was worth it." And for the first time since this began, I didn't know. 12 years sounds like a sentence. It feels more like an erosion. You don't wake up one morning transformed. You erode slowly. Habit by habit. Lie by lie. Silence by silence. The bureau gave me my badge back, but it never gave me my old reflection. I worked cases. Closed files. Gave statements. Avoided interviews. Promotions stopped coming. Not officially. Just quietly. My record remained clean. My evaluations precise. My clearance intact. But trust, once cracked, doesn't shatter loudly. It splinters in subtle places. I was no longer the golden investigator. I was the man who arrested his lover. Even if no one said it that way. Even if I never confirmed it. The media stopped speculating after the first year. New scandals replace old ones quickly. The public forgets. But I didn't. And neither did he. He wrote once a year. Never more. Never less. No poetry. No declarations. No manipulation. Just observations. About prison libraries. About routine. About discipline. About reading philosophy instead of escape manuals. The letters were calm. Measured. As if the obsession had been distilled into something quieter. That frightened me more than the robber ever had. Because obsession burns hot. But patience waits. Claire transferred departments after year 2. White-collar division. We remained cordial. Professional. Occasionally we met for coffee. She married in year 5. Divorced in year 8. I realized I was still angry, she told me once. At him. I asked. No, she said. At you. That felt fair. You chose the law, she continued. But you didn't choose yourself. I didn't argue. She never hated Evan. That was the strange part. She hated that he had forced honesty. And that I had resisted it. In year 9, I received a letter that was different. Not emotionally. Logistically. Parole review scheduled. 12 years had shrunk. 8, with good behavior. He had not violated a single regulation. He had completed degrees inside. Consulted on criminal reform strategy. Helped restructure prison education systems. The Bureau had quietly acknowledged his intelligence again. Without acknowledging him. The irony wasn't lost on me. He had always been disciplined. Even in obsession. Parole hearings are procedural. Impersonal. Measured in documentation. I was asked whether I wished to submit a statement. For or against. Claire called that night. You're going to, she said. Yes. For or against. I didn't answer immediately. For truth, I finally said. She laughed softly. That's the first honest thing you've said in years. The hearing room was smaller than I expected. He looked older. Not broken. Just carved by time. The sharpness had softened. Not in mind. In intensity. When he saw me, there was no smile. No hunger. Just recognition. I gave my statement plainly. Agent Evan Vale committed serious federal crimes. No civilians were harmed. His conduct in custody has been exemplary. His actions were calculated but not reckless. I believe he no longer presents a threat to public safety. The board asked the question that mattered. Do you believe his actions were motivated by obsession? I held his gaze. Yes. And do you believe that obsession remains? Silence. Measured. Deliberate. No. It wasn't a lie. Obsession seeks control. What I saw in him now was something else. Restraint. Parole was granted. Supervised release. Restrictions. Geographic limitations. He stepped outside federal custody on a gray afternoon. There was no press. No spectacle. Just quiet air. I waited across the street. Not in uniform. Not as an agent. As a man. He saw me. Paused. Then crossed. No dramatic embrace. No desperate confession. Just proximity. You came, he said. Yes. For closure. For something that costs me, I replied. That was the moment he understood. This wasn't about arrest anymore. This wasn't about letters. This wasn't about obsession. This was about choice. Loving him now would cost me. Not professionally, the bureau had moved on. Socially. Personally. Internally. Because loving him meant admitting that I had loved him before. And that I had chosen safety over truth. It meant acknowledging that my identity had not been threatened by him. Only revealed. I was angry at you for years, I said. I know. I told myself you manipulated me. I did. I told myself it wasn't love. He didn't interrupt. It was, I finished. There it was. No explosion. No cinematic swell. Just honesty. He inhaled slowly. That's all I wanted, he said quietly. Not possession. Not surrender. Acknowledgement. We didn't move in together. We didn't rush. We rebuilt like adults who had already destroyed something once. He took consulting work. Criminal behavioral strategy. I remained in federal service. Not hiding anymore. Not broadcasting either. Claire met him for coffee 3 months later. She studied him like a case file. Then she nodded. You're different, she told him. Yes, he replied. So are you, she told me. She wasn't angry anymore. Just wiser. We all were. There were consequences. Some colleagues distanced themselves quietly. Others surprised me with quiet support. The bureau never mentioned his name again. But they knew. And I knew they knew. That was enough. One evening, a year after his release, we stood on my apartment balcony. City lights below. Wind steady. You regret it? I asked him. The robberies, he clarified. Yes. He thought carefully. I regret the harm to institutions, he said. Not the honesty. That felt like him. Measured. Ethical. Still precise. You, he asked. I regret waiting 12 years. He smiled slightly. You didn't wait, he said. You grew. That may have been generous. But growth often looks like delay in disguise. Sometimes I think about the first letter. The first coded message hidden in crime scene debris. The first time he forced me to ask why my pulse changed when I saw his name. He didn't make me gay. He didn't seduce me into something foreign. He confronted something I had buried beneath discipline and fear. And he did it badly. Recklessly. Illegally. But he did it. Would I choose the same path again? No. Would I choose him differently? Yes. That's the part that costs something. People still ask, quietly, when they learn the story through whispers. Was it worth it? I don't answer immediately. Because worth is measured differently once you stop lying to yourself. He lost 12 years. I lost 12 years of honesty. We both paid. But we didn't end in destruction. We ended in clarity. And clarity, I've learned, is far more dangerous than desire. He once told me. Obsession is loud. Love is disciplined. Back then, he was wrong. Now, he's right. If there's anything this story taught me, if there's anything I'd leave behind for someone else standing at the edge of their own truth, it's this. The most dangerous pursuit isn't chasing a criminal. It's chasing an image of yourself that keeps you safe but keeps you silent. If you ever find yourself hunting someone who seems to know you too well, ask whether you're chasing them. Or yourself. And when the moment comes, the one that costs something, choose the version of you that can live with it. Because prisons come in many forms. And not all of them have bars.